Hey everyone. So we are just going to give it a minute here. Just waiting for YouTube to catch up to the live stream so I can mute it. And that way I'm not here double. There we go. Perfect. So I'm just going to give it a little bit here. Um, Let it send some notifications out because obviously I do not typically do live streams on Sunday, and I really have not had a schedule for that matter at all over the past month, 2 months. Heck, I'll even say for 2023, I haven't had much of a schedule. So I'm just going to give it a minute here and let some people come on in. While we are waiting for people to come on in, I do want to make a note that the internet here at the college has periodically dropped over the last couple days, including earlier this afternoon. It dropped for an hour and a half, give or take. So if I suddenly disappear and the live kind of ends, that's basically what happened is that I lost internet connection. So let's see. I am just going to throw this on here for tonight's live stream because I keep forgetting to do that. And I'm actually going to start off before we get in to working at the college and everything. I want to point out I am at 464 subscribers right now out of my 2023 goal of 1,000. So, push to get that halfway mark of 500 subscribers, I have a little bit of a promise for you guys. Hopefully, over the next month, the weather will start to warm up here and the snow will start to melt. If you guys can push me to 500 subscribers, if we hit 500 subscribers while the weather is still doable, I mean, the lake stays cold forever. Hey, thank you for stopping in. So, if we can hit 500 subscribers, I will do the polar plunge within Lake Superior. So for those of you who are already subscribed to my channel and have followed me along on my adventures, you know that I am not a fan of the cold. And the polar plunge is something I was already kind of debating about, and I've been trying to figure out ways to train for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of me is like, okay, it's uncomfortable. I hate the cold. I don't like the cold. Why am I talking about doing the polar plunge? But, you know, if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that I'm all about getting outside of my comfort zone. And when you look into it, it is actually pretty beneficial for you. So I am going to do it for the first time ever, but we need to hit that 500 subscribers mark. So please, if you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and please share with your friends, family, anyone else who you think might like my videos and follow along with the channel. So, without further ado, let's just dive right in here. I basically wanted to talk about my job at the college here because I've had a couple questions regarding that and I've realized I haven't talked much about it at all. So, for those who don't know, I am the manager of the campus suites here at Gogebic Community College. It is the college that I went to for 4 years. I graduated high school in 2018, and in the fall, I came to Gogebic. It is a local college where I was born and raised. And for the first 2 years, I did in person classes for both engineering and entrepreneurship. And when COVID shut everything down, I decided to stop focusing on engineering and start focusing more on my entrepreneurship. As my very first semester with COVID and everything online, dealt with physics, calculus 2, and chemistry. So a horrible combination to be trying to learn online during the middle of a pandemic. So I switched over to my entrepreneurship degree, and over the last 2 years, I did travel the country while working on online classes through GoGibic. Now, last spring, instead of going to my graduation at the college on May 6th, I did go through Yellowstone National Park on May 6th, and that is how I celebrated me getting a degree here at the college. Now, because of how many credit hours I had due to engineering as well, I ended up not getting a degree in entrepreneurship, but a degree in applied business. So a little bit higher of a degree. So upon graduating, I was already on my way back to Upper Michigan. And I want to say it was probably middle of July when I got a text message saying that they were looking for a manager of the campus suites. And this person thought that I would be a really good fit for the job. And knowing me, my personality, and everything, I always try to help people and I want to make a positive impact. So I always felt like that was a great thing to do as well with the job. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for coming in. So, yeah, I want to say it was in July. I got that text message, and right away, although I love to be on the road, my finances were not the greatest. I was struggling due to how high inflation cost, especially with diesel. Just getting back from Arizona to Michigan cost me over $1,200 in diesel. So I knew by doing this job, I could basically build a foundation. I can invest in myself and my business, but I could also strive to make a positive impact on the college that I went to, on my local community, and I could help other young adults and other college students have a successful education. So I applied, and obviously, I got the job. Now, over the past, we'll say, year, academic year, because the academic year wraps up, final date is May 12th this year. So, about a month and a half to go, and I'll be done with my first academic year. So, looking back, some of the biggest things that I've done as the manager of the college here is there is an old commercial kitchen in a building that we call Linquist. Now, this kitchen is not as utilized as I would want it to. So, excuse me. The I even mentioned right away in my interview one of the first things I wanted to do was getting cooking classes started. So right now until the end of the semester and back in November as well, I've been doing cooking classes such as, if you guys have seen me talking in the live chat of Land Cloud Adventures, Upper Michigan pasties. For those who don't live in the area, lots of people don't know what that is. So the very first dish I ever did was pasties, and I did the most basic version step by step and walked all the students through how to make a pasty. Along with this, I also taught the origin and some of the histories behind pasties, such as the shell of the pasty was never meant to be eaten, ate. It was actually cracked open, you would eat the contents inside, and a lot of the miners would leave the crust, the shell of the pasty, in the mines for any evil spirits as a peace offering. So that was something that a lot of even local students didn't know about. So that is one thing as the manager here that I'm really trying to build. Another thing that I did, I think one of the most proudest accomplishments I had activity wise was back in October. That was probably one of my first big ones where I ended up renting Peacock for a month, I want to say, and we got a good deal on it. They were showing Halloween Ends, the newest Michael Myers movie, and it only had come out a couple weeks prior in movie theaters. So I decided, why not have a nice Halloween movie night in the campus lounge, in the dorms lounge? Well, fast forward, we have apple cider, we have Halloween donuts and Rice Krispies and just all kinds of Halloween themed snacks. And we had 15 students total show up to our little lounge. And it was just amazing to be sitting behind all those students. And when a jump scare would like pop up, the students would scream, or you'd see one of them like jump really bad. It was just amazing to sit back and kind of see all of that hard work and planning paying off and the students enjoying that. And outside of that, one of my favorite trips, definitely if you have not seen it yet, highly recommend it, would be most recently the trip out to Lake Superior at Little Girls Point to see the Northern Lights. Now, it recently came to my attention that the Northern Lights are actually considered one of seven natural wonders of the world, making it so I have seen two natural wonders because I have seen both the Northern Lights and the Grand Canyon a couple years ago. But many of my students have never seen the Northern Lights. So to bring them out there, and I talk about it in the video, what the experience was like, but it was just overall an amazing experience. But what exactly is my job as the manager of the campus suites? So basically, we have RAs, and for those who don't know, the RAs are just abbreviations for resident assistant. Basically, they are fellow students that live in the campus suites here, and they have the job of helping other students out if a student is, say, feeling homesick or if they get locked out of their room, stuff like that. Now, I also help with that, but I oversee the RAs and I also handle more severe situations that may arise. I also deal with things like every semester we need to do a fire drill where we'll set off every single alarm in the building, and we got to see how long it takes for everybody to get out of the building. We have to get everybody out by a certain time frame. We got to make sure that everything's working in the building, like the elevator. What happens when the alarms go off? Does the elevator stop operating? Does it keep going? Stuff like that I have to do. Along with that, once a month we always do room checks, and the room checks revolve around the furniture. Do we need new desks? Do we need new chairs? Do we need new bunk beds? Are the bunk beds splitting a little bit? So, dealing with a lot of that, I deal with recruiting both for the campus in general as well as the campus suites. So, reading through all of the different programs that are offered here on the college, such as nursing, engineering, um, on business, just all those different degrees, reading through all of them, CDL, hopefully cosmetology again one day. So, reading through all those, learning as much about the programs as I can, and being able to help and answer questions and recruit people for the college and specifically for the dorms. Because prior to the pandemic, and this is not just our college, this is a worldwide thing. But prior to the pandemic, we had a record number of students in the dorms. The dorms were built here in 2006, and we had currently 78 students in there spring of 2020. I was one of those students. So I moved in January of 2020, and come March of 2020 the dorms shut down. And since then, overall, not just the dorms but overall worldwide, enrollment numbers have been down for colleges. So my job really as the manager too is not only just taking care of the students and making sure everything's running smoothly and all of that, but it's also figuring out, okay, how can we get the numbers back up? How can I um, get, because right now we have, well, let's see, we started in August, September with approximately 35, 36 students. And we started the spring semester here with 31. And I believe currently we are at 29 students now. So a drastic difference from the pandemic having 78 prior. So that's basically my job as well. How do I get those numbers back up? How how do I make everything run smoothly? How do I make sure everyone's having a good experience and everybody is safe? Stuff like that. So, a typical day in my life working as the manager here of the campus suites. Basically, every single week I have office hours just like everybody else. My office hours here are usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from noon until 3 p.m. So, outside of those hours, sometimes I may go over a little early, sometimes I might go over a little late, or stay later if there is a lot going on. But a typical day, basically, I will wake up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I have to go open up the laundry room here in the campus suites. And from there, I take care of Rocky. I make sure he gets breakfast. I let him outside. I eat breakfast. And I just, kind of get the basics done and get started for the day, get everything rolling. Upon waking up, I always check my email as well to make sure if there's any important information, stuff like that. And then come 12 o'clock, I'll usually go to my office. Lately, because it is that time of year where seniors are going to be graduating, I go to my office and I could see people that are applying for the campus suites here at Gogibic. And I go through and I email or I call or I text and I just reach out to them and I thank them for being interested in the campus suites here. I tell them what their next step is with filling out the application, stuff like that. And then I just ask if they have any questions, concerns, and we'll go from there. Another job, too, along those lines, and as well as recruiting, is that I often give tours of the dorms here. So, a couple weeks ago, we had, I want to say, 200 students, high school students, juniors, and seniors visiting the college. And we went through and we brought them into the campus suites and we gave them a tour and showed them what the rooms look like, the lounge, the lobby, answered questions for them, all kinds of stuff like that. So from 12 to 3, just reaching out, making flyers for any upcoming events. I have an online course as well, a class. They don't have to do anything, but they could go onto this online website basically, and they could see what activities are going on, important announcements. Um, Next fall, I'm gonna have like an introduction thing, so you can introduce yourself and people can get to know each other a little bit while they're moving in. So then come 3 o'clock, the college usually closes at 4 o'clock. Those are the typical hours. So if I'm not in my office till 4, I usually come back around 3. And if it's my day to pick up the mail, I do that. I bring it over, I deliver it. And then usually the cleaning staff is arriving around that time. So I meet with the cleaning staff, ask if they've had any concerns lately or how everything's been going, if they've noticed anything out of the ordinary, stuff like that. So that is pretty much a typical work day for me here at the college. Now, why am I kind of starting all of this? I know it seems a little bit random here. So, why am I starting all these videos all of a sudden on my job? So, April is actually community college month. So, I figured I've been wanting to talk about the job for a while now. I'm going to have next week a video showing you guys a tour of the overall college. The week after that, I'm going to show you guys a tour of the dorms specifically. So I figured what a better time to do it than during community college month. So, hey, Nomadic Rat Pack, thanks for coming in. So, that is a typical day of work for me. Um, yeah, and as I was saying, next week I will do a tour of the college for you guys. You can see the overall college, the academic building, the business building, technical building, show you guys my office. The week after that, I'll give you guys a tour of the dorms so you can see where I live and where the students live and the overall building that I run, stuff along those lines. So I always rush through these live streams. I did see that Ray with Van Life Rocks. I did not see anything for him tonight, so I don't think he's going live. I don't know if I'll stay for the whole hour then because we have another 40 minutes, and I honestly don't know how, um, like how how long I could talk about this really. I didn't have an hour worth of planning. I'm still trying to get better with making these live streams last. I always rush through this stuff. But yeah, that's a pretty typical day for me here at the college. We do another exciting part of me being on campus here as the manager is that we do allow emotional support animals like Rocky to be here. So whether it's a dog or a cat, we're learning um, how to put policies in place for that, what kind of stuff we should have on doors. Like, for example, if a dog is scratching on a door, we don't want the fire. The doors here are very expensive because they are specifically made to withstand a fire. So, what can we put on them basically to make sure the dogs aren't destroying them if they're scratching, stuff like that? So, another big thing that I'm really excited about since joining the job here. Now, I'm trying to think here, just off the top of my head, what would be the most difficult thing this year for me. I do have a great team here. I am part of the student services team, and my boss was in my position for several years, and she was at some really big colleges. So she has a lot of experience with different situations, and it's been really nice getting to um, ask her for input and see even sometimes just letting her control a situation and sitting back and taking it all in and seeing how she handles it. Um, so yeah, absolutely amazing team, some great teamwork throughout the college here. So I wouldn't necessarily say that lack of experience has been my biggest challenge. I think honestly my biggest challenge this year, being the manager of the dorms, is just finding engagement because like I said, prior to COVID we had 78 people living in the dorms, and now we have less than 30, about 30. So there's a lot less people that could potentially come to activities. And you also got to factor in many of the students here in the dorms are sport players. So they're going to have practice, they're going to have games. So if they have practice or games, that's just more people that can't attend your activities. So it's trying to find out what kind of activities you should do. We've done art nights, we've tried board games nights, we've tried a VR tournament for those who know what Beat Saber is. We did that. It's basically, for those who don't know, Beat Saber is like Guitar Hero, except instead of doing different colored notes, you have two lightsabers and you have to hit the notes with the lightsaber in a certain direction. So we've tried that. We've tried art nights is a really big one. Basketball activities, that's a pretty big one. I plan on trying to do dodgeball, so I'm hoping um, that might be a good one that gets some interest. We occasionally do movie nights. We're actually going to be doing a movie night tonight, right after this live stream. Uh, those have been very hit or miss. It really depends on what kind of movie you're showing. So it's tricky trying to find something that the current residents like, because everyone has different hobbies and personal, like everybody has personal different likes and dislikes. So trying to find something that a group of people likes, and then you don't want to do it too regularly, because if you do it too regularly you're going to kind of get sick of it. You don't want it to be super outrageously expensive, because you are working with a budget, so it's not like you could be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on gigantic activities. But we do have a decent budget too. I don't want to make it sound like we don't. We definitely have a great budget um, to have some fun activities. But it's also that kind of stuff where, like, if you spend, say, $100 on one activity, that's $100 less you have for future activities. So trying to find that balance, and that's something else I do as well, is playing with the finances. What is the numbers? Where, like, right now, okay, we have 30 students in here. I would personally, in the fall, I'm aiming for 60. I would love to get 60 in here again. So if we have 60 students in here, does that mean we should have double what I had this year for activities budget wise? Or how does that look? So trying to determine stuff like that. And again, just because of COVID, the engagement overall being down, it is not just something with the campus suites. It is something, again, that's kind of worldwide, and we hear it from other colleges as well as other high schools as well, that um, students just aren't as engaged as they used to be. And it totally makes sense because, like, think about it. Everyone is that way. For 2 3 years we were living through a pandemic, and it was kind of like you had to quarantine and self isolate and just create your own hobbies. So now it's like trying to go back to a normal that, quite honestly, I don't think we ever will fully achieve again, um, because that pandemic was definitely, I think, affected everyone um, in one way or another, even with some of the most subtle things. Like when I used to work at Walmart, if I was doing shopping for someone's order and a group of people kind of was starting to surround me, I found out that, like, hey, I need to get out of here. I'm starting to feel a little bit claustrophobic. Just little subtle things like that that are just kind of instinct because of the pandemic. So that's another thing too, is trying to, I say a lot on this channel, seek discomfort. So it's also trying to get students to do that in a way, like get out of their comfort zones and try new things. Because, hey, you guys know that I hate the snow, but I went skiing and I actually love it. So it's trying to get people to also do that, and hopefully find hobbies and make friends that they otherwise wouldn't. Um, So I really I'd say that significantly is the biggest part of the biggest challenge of my first year here. Um, Moving forward, to give you guys a little bit of a look into the future, I am going to be interviewing people for RA positions in the fall. So I'm excited about that. We have quite a few people interested right now. So I'm excited to do that. Um, Interviews are also very nerve wracking for me, believe it or not, even though I'm the one giving the interview. I actually told my boss I felt like it was very weird to be on the opposite side of that for the first time. And it's bizarre. It really is, because I've never gotten to sit on the other side of that, and that's something I do too, as as a staff member, sometimes if we're hiring another staff member, I'll go and I'll do the interview with some other staff members. So, I think that's also something that's really good for me because I could sit there and kind of see what it's like to interview somebody else. And I feel like that personally will improve my interviewing skills. And it's just, hi, Linda. There it is. Took a second. Hey, thanks for stopping in. No, I typically am not live streaming on a Sunday night, especially right now because it would be Land Cloud Adventures. Nate would be streaming right now. But this month is community college month, and I knew Nate wasn't going live tonight, so I figured why not talk about my job and give you guys a little bit of a introduction into my life, as that is something I haven't really posted much about on my YouTube channel. So while I'm thinking about some other aspects of the job that I could discuss here, does anybody have any questions or anything about m- my job or just living back here in Upper Michigan or anything? We unfortunately do have snow. I did have someone on another live stream ask me about that. We are up to, I believe, 206.5 inches as of this morning. And what was it? 25 inches on the ground. So it's a lot of snow. I'm guessing we're probably gonna have snow beginning of May still, unfortunately. Um, but let's hope for the best. Maybe middle of April. I don't know. Um, oh yeah, I guess I could talk about if anyone does have questions about the job or anything, please drop them in the chat and I'll answer them the best I can. Um, okay, I see Nancy is saying, let me give it a second here. It's not pulling up on this side. Now I'm having computer difficulties. There we go. So thank you for the question, Nancy. She's asking how old is the building? So actually, I'll dive into the overall history a little bit. The history of the college was that it started in the local high school on the second or third floor. It was on the top floor of the high school. And back in the 70s, we ended up building the academic building first, and the classes from the high school then were taking place here, and Go Gibbet Community College was born. Now, I always think it's very cool when I'm physically giving a tour on campus, and I'll talk a little bit about the history more in next week's video when I'm giving you guys a tour around. But as you're walking from the dorms over to the academic building, you're pretty much walking through time. So the academic building was the first building that was built, and that was in the 70s. And the dorms that I work at was built in 2006. So it's a pretty newer building still. Um, we do have to do some renovations. I'm not a fan of, for example, the carpeting in the hallway. I do want to update it a little bit just because it's a little older, I feel, little old fashioned looking. Same with some of the furniture. Like the furniture is not like super outdated, but me personally, I'm just not a fan of the designs, and it is getting to that point where it's like, okay, well, no harm, no foul. We could replace these. So we are looking into getting new furniture both in the lounge and the lobby of the dorms. But yep, the building was built in 2006. The record for most residents was 78, and that was spring of 2020. And potentially the way it works, and you guys will see this in a future video 2 weeks from now when I do a tour of the dorms. But basically, we have 25 suites, we call them, in this building. What is the college's name? It is Gogibic Community College, and it is actually in my hometown where I was born and raised. So, give me a second here. I gotta answer this. Gotta answer this quick. Phone, that's just part of the job. Phone rings, phone dings. I gotta answer it. Just a second. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. But yep, that's another thing. I have a work phone. It is always by me. It is silenced right now, but it is in my point of view where I could see if it's lit up because someone's texting me or calling me. I always basically have to be on call in case of an emergency or if there's something that my RAs can't handle, something more severe. That's I step into those types of situations. But yes, the college is Gogibic Community College, and it is in Ironwood, Michigan, where I was born and raised. And I went to college here for 4 years, graduated May of 2022, and in August of 2022, I started the job here. So I'm coming up to a year since my graduation, but I'm also coming up to my first year, academic year of working here as the manager of the dorms. So the dorms can fit up to 96 people. We have 50 suites and we could have up to 96 people potentially in the building here. And I'll talk about stuff like that a little bit more when I give you guys a tour of the dorm specifically. But we have a lounge, we have a lobby. On campus in general, we have an esports arena, so I try to push students for that. One thing I always say is that like esports doesn't have to be um, like a cutthroat, live or die. We need to win. If you want to play more casual and just have a fun time, there's a couple different leagues that you could play for that. And I actually used to play esports here on campus in the more casual leagues. So it's just kind of fun coming full circle, having a degree from the college now and actively using it right now to make a positive difference here on campus, on the community, and fellow students and residents here at the college. So in the future, I was mentioning that I'm going to be doing interviews. I'm going to be looking for new RAs. Got a couple interested currently, so I'm excited for that. And is the college closed for the summer? So give me a second, Linda. There we go, as it pops through StreamYard here. Thanks again for the question. I appreciate it. The college has some different hours for the summer, but it's not really closed, especially for me. So while the academic year, say end of August to middle of May, is probably the overall busiest time of year for me on the job itself because I'm dealing with recruiting, um, just all kinds of different aspects all over the college. The summer, personally, for me, should be my busiest time of year for the dorms because what happens is it sounds like 30 rooms are taken for the ski hill here and they do some training on I think the ski lift and stuff like that every single year during the summer, so we should have about 30 rooms I want to say for that. And outside of this, we do have camps. So we have high schoolers, elementary students, and they come here and they'll stay in the dorms and they'll get to do projects like science projects, or they'll get to learn about programming and do some programming projects. outside of that, we also have some internships that come and they stay here because they'll be working on Lake Superior nearby. So they stay in the dorms here while they have their internships. So the college, not really closed. Classes wise, all classes are online. There's no physically in person classes on campus, but the hours are open. Um, Personally, I don't know what the hours are off the top of my head at this time. I don't know. Maybe they even change every year. I'm not sure. But we do like professors, stuff like that. From what I've heard, they have to have certain hours being in their office. That way, if a student is taking an online class or something and they have a question and they're local, stuff like that, or if someone is going to be attending for the first time in the fall and they want to come in early and get a tour and they have questions or want to meet professors, stuff like that, they have the ability to do so. So, very busy overall year for me. The benefits are amazing. I do get some amazing benefits, some of which is like vacation time. I'm not used to really having that. It's kind of like I'm trying to think here. I have the trip with Nate and Captain Jack at the Pictured Rocks. I'll be using vacation time for that. Have M23 for those who know what I'm talking about. M23 downstate. I plan on using some vacation time for that. I just have not booked it yet. So if anyone in the chat or anyone who watches this later on, if you're going to M23, I will be there as well. The only reason I haven't booked it yet is because my current vehicle will definitely not make it down that far. I don't trust it. I don't even trust it to make a quarter of that drive. So I need to buy a truck this summer and I have to look into the logistics of all of that before I book a campground in September. I want to make sure everything's going to be running smoothly. And as I was mentioning, the academic year starts end of August, beginning of September. So I want to make sure that everything is set up, everything is going to run smoothly, and that way I can be gone for M23. So we have the RA interviews coming up. We have the summer camps and stuff that I mentioned coming up. I have graduation coming up on May 12th. We have graduation. Buy a van that you can camp in. See, now I was just talking about this earlier too. I had a video pop up and it was a van. I love the vans. Like, if it was just me, I would totally get a van, no hesitation. I love the vans, and I'm not very picky. It doesn't have to be huge or any. The vans are perfect to me personally. But having Rocky, I don't think I could survive in a van. When I throw Rocky into the equation, and I love him, don't get me wrong, but when I throw Rocky into the equation, unfortunately, it does not make sense to me. It it limits me significantly, and I feel like it would be very crowded. Um, I mean, even just being in the bus, being in the suite here at the college, sometimes he's right up my butt because of his separation anxiety. So I can't imagine that trapped inside of a van. If I didn't have Rocky, I probably would go that route, but my dream setup right now is a pickup truck that has a cover on the back end. And that way, if I want to camp locally or if I want to take a smaller trip, I could throw a bed in the back and I could sleep in the back while Rocky sleeps in the back seats of the truck, or have like a tent or something along with it and Rocky could sleep in the bed. I don't know. Just, it would create some kind of local stuff. Um, but I do want to have a camper as well, so that way we have a little bit more room. And can have more things like an oven, a fridge, stuff like that as well that I originally did not have in my 2005 Caravan. So, an exciting, a big personal like goal to me having this job was the hopes that I could buy a vehicle, a plot of land, a camper, and possibly a tiny house. Now, here we are coming up on my first academic year. It seems like I have played my cards right where I could potentially get the vehicle this summer, and I could potentially, if I sell the bus or trade the bus, which I really hope so. I don't want to deal with that bus anymore. Honestly, I absolutely hate the bus. I'm sorry to say it, but I do. Um, but if I sell or trade the bus, hopefully I can get a camper this summer as well. And that way I'm kind of ahead of the game from where I originally was hoping. But I can also buy that plot of land, hopefully buy a tiny house. And I think I'm looking at plots of land out in Arizona and Utah area and trying to find like a researching tiny houses. Do I want to buy one outright? Do I want to build one myself? Because as a staff member here too, um, tuition costs are super cheap as a staff member. So I've also thought of that as while I'm here, do I want to take any classes? And I might. Right now, I'm still leaning towards programming. I didn't do it this year because I wanted to focus significantly on the job and the business and the YouTube channel. But I think in the fall, I'll probably start taking some programming classes. Since I did so many years, both engineering and business related, I already have pretty much all the credits I would need, except for specifically the programming classes. I think there's 6 classes. So that's another thing that I can, by the time I do leave here, I could potentially have a business degree and a programming certificate. And with that, I also have years worth of experience at that point, hopefully. Um, I'd have years worth of working as a manager, so managing experience. Maybe I could get a job that I could do remotely through my laptop or something that I can do on the road. So it definitely was a big opportunity for me, but I'm also really excited just to help other students right now and help them have a great education. So, yeah, graduation is May 12th. I believe the week after that, I might be taking a trip because everyone will be moved out. I'll be kind of in a transition period right there. That is really the only transit only wow. It's like this morning I couldn't talk. I was trying to film a YouTube video for you guys and there was like 3 or 4 words that was trying to learn how to pronounce and oh my god. But yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. It's getting late, guys. It's been a long week for me. But um it sounds like reasonable goals. It just takes time. Exactly. And that's something where prior to me starting the YouTube and the business and everything, it was kind of like I was always trying to help other people out and always striving to make this positive impact and this big impact. And then when I started living on the road and I started the channel and the business, I was like, I need to take some me time. I need to make that a little bit more of a priority right now because, like, if I don't help myself, then I can't help others. So, a lot of focus over the last 2 years was how can I um, just like my depression and stuff? How do I um, handle my depression, anxiety? How do I handle anxiety? How do I do all that? How do I learn and live and and just make the most of every single day. So many life lessons that I learned on the road that I could use for the job here. That was one thing right away too that I was really excited about when I started this job is being a nomad. I've been all over the country. I've been to 27 states, I want to say. So it's like when someone comes, I have a student right now who's from Arizona, and it's like, hey, it's, we talk about Arizona and just stuff like that. But it was also like, okay, I still want to help people. So, how do I find that balance? And like I said, due to the inflation, especially the diesel prices, last summer, I was hurting really, really bad financially. I had no idea how I was going to get back out to Arizona. And me, like, I will go all in. That's what I want more than anything in the world, to just be living on the road. That is where my heart and soul is. And that is where I'm the happiest. And like, that is my end goal in life. I understand not everyone is like that. Everyone has different priorities, but personally, that is my end goal. So I was struggling financially, and that's when the text message came through about the job here on campus. And I thought it was a perfect balance. It's stable, so I don't have to worry about, oh my God, how am I going to get across the country? It's too hot here, or it's too cold here. I need to survive. it's it's still living my life, and I'm growing, and I'm increasing, um like, as an individual, but I'm also making a positive impact in ways that really matter to me, especially because, again, this is the place that I was born and raised. So I think it was the perfect balance. So I am just gonna give me a second here. I want to make sure that Ray is not going live tonight. That is correct. He is not going live. I do not see a live stream for Van Life Rocks with Ray tonight. So it does sound like a great job with flexibility, and it definitely is. And this year was a lot more, I don't know if this is the exact way to say it, but intense. Um, because it was a matter of trying to figure out, like, how did I want to do it? And my boss even mentions that, where it's kind of like she'll give me input, but she says, like, don't feel pressured to do it exactly like how I would do it. Make it your own, because that's how you will make the best experience for everyone. So, do you have family close? I do. This is where, outside of my uncle, who is out on the road still, this is where all of my family is. So, that is another pro, I guess, that you can say is, after traveling for 2 years or so, I am now back home and I get to see my family, and we get to have some nights together. Just the other night, I want to say 6 of us just were hanging out on a Saturday night, and we watched a movie, stuff like that. Um, like, just being able to do that again, that's something that I haven't gone in to do when I was on the road. So that is really nice. And it's also just kind of like, I was just having this conversation with someone last night. As a YouTuber and as someone who lived on the road, it seems like for some reason that it's like there's not a lot of content. There's not a lot of YouTube content on the Upper Peninsula. Not because people say Upper Michigan and they're talking about, like, the upper tip of the Lower Peninsula. That is not Upper Michigan. Upper Michigan means the Upper Peninsula. So the Upper Peninsula specifically does not seem to have a lot of content. And it's a very beautiful place. It's a very historic place. And I feel like it's a niche in an area that I can also help and get into right now. How did your family end up in the UP? Now, I often joke about that question because I'm like, whose great idea? Because even my family, they're sick of the snow. They want to get out of here. Even if it's just a couple hours south where it's not as bad. So we joke about that. Like, whose bright idea was it to live up here? From my understanding of it, is you had a couple people that were mining because that was a big thing for Michigan when it first became a state was the mining. But it was also down by Detroit, the making vehicles and stuff like that, working on those vehicle assembly lines. I believe that was also a big part of my family history. Specifically for ironwood, though, and what is really cool, I've actually showed some students this. Right now, where the college is Ironwood Township. It's not considered the town of Ironwood itself, it's called Ironwood Township. And Ironwood Township existed before the town of Ironwood, if that makes sense. I know it's a bit confusing, but just down the road from the college here is a really small, really old wooden cabin. And it turns out that on my mom's side of the family, through my grandma, my third great grandparents lived in this old cabin, and they were the first people ever to live in Ironwood. Not just Ironwood Township, they were the first people overall. Ironwood Township, Ironwood, they were the first people to live here. They were known as the pioneers of Ironwood. And I've shown students when we're going out to Little Girls Points, I take a little detour and I tell them like, "Hey, this is blah blah blah." And I talk about that history, and they get to see it. And I believe right now the family is working on making that a historical place so it can never be demolished or anything. It'll be protected. So I really, really hope that they successfully are able to pull that off. I personally have not seen like the inside of it. My third great grandmother, she actually has an apple orchard in the back, and I would love a cousin of mine. They they went and knocked on the door and explained the history, and the owners did let them go back there and see the cabin, the inside, and pick some apples off the tree. I don't know. To me, knocking on their door and being like, "Hey, my third grandmother used to live here. Can I see it?" Little bizarre. I don't know. Maybe it's a seek discomfort moment, something I should just do, but I haven't done it. I would love to eat those apples off the trees. I just think it's the coolest thing. And across the street, a little bit from them, is an old farm. And that was another family member. And that was actually the first place in the area to get electricity. So it's kind of cool being a nomad too and traveling the country because we talk about me and my uncle that we're kind of the pioneers and we're getting our family out west now because more and more and more of them are planning to go out west. So it's kind of like to think back then they were the pioneers of this area and right now I'm potentially the pioneer for the family going out west and going down south. It's just a really cool full circle type thing. Because you can't forget where you came from either. So I did not see anything for Van Life Rocks. I don't think he will be going live tonight. And I do have to go upstairs to the lounge because we are going to be watching a movie tonight as a group in the dorms. So I can't believe even that we did it for an hour. So like yes, I always struggle to go for an hour. I'm learning, I'm making progress. You guys definitely helped out with all your questions and I thank you for asking those questions too. Very cool. What nationality is your family? So I'm trying to think here. I actually took a DNA test So let me see if I can log in here. I have a couple minutes before I have to start this movie, so I don't mind looking this up quick. It shouldn't take me too long. That is the wrong one. Maybe. And maybe I'll show you guys some of the articles. Like I have newspaper articles about my third great grandparents being the first people in Ironwood and stuff like that. So DNA results. Discover your DNA story. See, actually, let's see. We'll do that layout. Share screen, and we will do DNA. Bear with me. There we go. That's the one I wanted. Actually. So this is my DNA. I am 37% Scotland, 13% Scotland, which I'm going to be getting my passport here in a couple weeks. One of the first trips I want to do is to Scotland. I think it would be so cool to go back to where my ancestors came from. And I mean, like, let's be real here too. Scotland is absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking into a potential trip there this coming December, actually. So 13% Scotland, 11% Ireland, 7% Finland. And that makes sense because a lot of people in Upper Michigan do have some kind of Finland nationality. 6% Sweden and Denmark. I actually talked about that with a student here who is from Sweden and she is going to college here currently. So we've talked about like some of the common dishes and what life is like in Sweden, and I plan to go there eventually. 6% Wales, 5% German, 4% Puerto Rican, 4% Eastern Europe and Russian, 3% Norway, 1% Jewish, 1% Baltics, Sardinia. That's a new one. Basik. So that is my personal DNA there. Good live stream, Kobe. My great great aunt was Scottish, lived in the Sioux. My sisters in law from Baraga are Finnish. Okay. The Sioux, I got to get over that way. So many people. I actually went there a couple years ago for a robotics trip for the first time. I had never heard of the Sulaks, and ever since I have, it's like so many people know where that is now, and it really is a really big part of like the Great Lakes and shipping items, stuff like that. Definitely would like to get back over there again now that I'm diving deeper into history and trying to make videos for you guys. But thank you. I'm glad you liked the live stream as well. And thank you for all who tuned in. I am going to go and call it a night now. I got to go get this movie set up, and hopefully I get a good group tonight. So, again, thank you all for tuning in. Take care. And as always, I will see you guys on the next adventure.